everyone, buckle up. Because today we're rediving into a place that feels like it. It's been ripped straight out of a sci-fi movie or a prehistoric adventure novel. We're talking about the Congo rainforest, a massive, untamed wilderness in the heart of Africa where rumors swirl about creatures so wild, so bizarre, they might just make you question everything you thought you knew about the modern world. Think dinosaurs still roaming, spiders as big as people, crocodiles that take down elephants, and snakes longer than a school bus. Yeah, you heard that right. These aren't just campfire stories, these are accounts from real people. Eyewitnesses who've come face to face with things that sound like they belong in the Cretaceous period, not the 21st century. And the scariest part, some folks who claimed to see these creatures, well, they didn't make it back to tell the tale. So, grab a snack, get comfy, and let's take a wild ride into one of the most mysterious places on Earth. First things first, let's set the stage. The Congo rainforest, also called the Congo Basin, is no ordinary jungle. It's one of the biggest tropical rainforests on the planet, sprawling across hundreds of thousands of square miles in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Picture this: endless layers of ancient trees, so thick that sunlight barely sneaks through the canopy. It's like nature's fortress, untouched by time, where the air hums with life you can't even see. Scientists estimate this place is home to something like 10,000 plant species, 1,000 types of birds, 400 kinds of mammals, and who knows how many insects and microbes we haven't even discovered yet. It's a biodiversity jackpot, a living, breathing ecosystem that's been around for millions of years, pretty much unbothered by humans. But here, that's where it gets wild. Only about 10% of the Congo Basin has been explored by scientists. Let that sink in. 90% of this massive forest, swamps, caves, rivers, and all is a total mystery. It's like a blank spot on the map, a place where modern science hasn't even scratched the surface. And trust me, getting there isn't easy. The terrain is brutal. Think tangled vines, muddy swamps, and no roads for miles. Add to that political instability and security risks, and you've got a place that's kept its secrets locked up tight. Even with fancy tech like satellites and drones, researchers are only just starting to poke around. And what they're finding, or rather, what the locals have been talking about forever, is straight up mind. We're talking stories of massive creatures, things that sound like they stepped out of a Jurassic Park set, still lurking in the shadows. Could dinosaurs, or something close, actually be out there? If there's anywhere on Earth where that's possible, it's gotta be the Congo. Let's start with one of the creepiest legends, Mokumbembe, the so-called Jurassic, deep in the misty swamps around Lake Tele, where the water's still and the trees block out the sun. Locals swear there's something massive living out there. They call it Mokumbembe, which roughly translates to the one who stops the flow of rivers. That's not just a cool name, it's a warning. According to the people who live along the Congo River Basin, this isn't some myth you tell kids to scare them. It's real, something they've seen, something they've felt. For generations, they've passed down stories of this creature, and the description is wild. Picture an animal as big as an elephant, with smooth, gray-brown skin, a long, snaky neck, and a thick, muscular tail, like a crocodile's. Oh, and its body. Huge, rounded, with legs like stone pillars, moving slow and heavy through the swamps. Sound familiar? Yeah, it's giving serious sauropod vibes, like a living, breathing dinosaur. These stories aren't just from one or two people. We're talking accounts from all kinds of folks, local hunters, missionaries, explorers, even research teams who've been saying the same thing for over 300 years. They describe this herbivore chilling in deep lakes, munching on riverbank plants, and hiding out in underwater caves. One of the wildest moments came when missionaries showed locals pictures of animals, and the Congolese pointed straight at a sauropod illustration and said, "Yup, that's the thing in our forest." Keep in mind, these communities had zero exposure to dinosaur books or museums. How do you explain that? And it's not just talk, there's physical evidence, too. Massive footprints, some nearly a meter wide with 3 toes. have been found in the swamps. A biologist named Roy McCall, who taught at the University of Chicago, even photographed some of these tracks during his expeditions. He was convinced Mokumbem could be a dinosaur species we haven't documented yet, something that slipped through the cracks of the fossil record, whether it's real or not. The idea that something this ancient could still be out there, that's the kind of thing that keeps you up at night. Now, let's switch gears to something that'll make your skin crawl. JB Afofi, the Boka people, who live on the fringes of the rainforest, don't just believe this thing exists, they're terrified of it. And for good reason. They describe Jibafofi as a ground-dwelling spider with a leg span up to 5 feet, a dark brown body, a swollen abdomen, and this creepy purple sheen on its back. It's not spinning webs in the treetops like your average spider. Nope, this thing sets traps low to the ground, stretching single threads across animal trails to snag prey. Once something's caught, it gets dragged back to the spider's den-think leaf nests that look like tiny huts. And, well, it's game over. The Baka say this spider's been around forever, with stories going back to the late 1800s. One British missionary near Lake Nyasa wrote about getting caught in a massive web strung between trees, only to see this 8-legged monster, with legs as long as bamboo, creeping toward his group. He got out, but the memory that stuck with him. Researcher William J. Gibbons heard similar stories while chasing. He asked locals about a great spider, and they all nodded, describing the same thing. A 5-foot wide, purple-bellied beast that builds nests and hunts like a predator straight out of a horror flick. But here's the kicker, could a spider actually get that big? Biologically, spiders are limited by their breathing tubes and exoskeletons. But back in prehistoric times, when oxygen levels were higher, creatures like this could have grown way beyond what we see today. Think Titanoboa, that giant snake that ruled the ancient world. If the Congo's environment is just right, who's to say a massive spider couldn't still be out there, lurking in the shadows? The way the locals talk about GBA Fofi, with this quiet, serious fear, makes you wonder. They don't treat it like a story. To them, it's a real threat, something you avoid at all costs. First up, let us talk about a creature so terrifying that even the toughest hunters steer clear of its territory. It's called Emela-Ntouka, which in the local language translates to elephant killer. Yeah, you heard that right, a creature that can take down an African forest elephant, one of the toughest animals on the planet. This isn't some ghostly legend or a fairy tale whispered around a campfire. The Congolese people, especially those living near the rivers and swamps, describe Emela-Ntouka as a real flesh and blood monster. According to their stories, this thing is massive, with a thick, tough hide and a single horn jutting out from the middle of its forehead. It's semi-aquatic, often seen slipping into murky rivers or lounging in swampy waters. But don't let that fool you. If you step into its domain, it'll charge without a second thought. And it's not picky about whether you're human or beast. What makes this story so chilling is how specific the descriptions are. Village elders and tribal leaders talk about seeing this creature go head-to-head with elephants and come out on top. They say it's got a huge body, maybe even bigger than a rhino, and moves with this terrifying confidence, like it knows it's the king of the jungle. Here's where it gets really weird. When Western missionaries showed up with animal charts, asking locals to point out what Emela-Ntouka looked like, they kept pointing to pictures of a triceratops. You know, that 3-horned dinosaur that roamed the earth millions of years ago. These communities had no clue about paleontology or dinosaur books, so how do they describe something that sounds exactly like a creature from the Cretaceous? It's enough to make your head spin. There's even a story from the 1930s about a group of hunters who supposedly killed an emu. One of them kept its horn as a trophy. But here's the catch, he's never shown it to anyone outside his village. Why? He's worried that government officials or collectors would swoop in and take it. That's how real this is to them. And the locals don't just avoid certain rivers and forests because of old wives, tailies. They do it because their ancestors taught them to respect this creature's turf. One elder put it perfectly. Where there are no elephants, there's a Emela-Ntouka. The elephants know to stay away. Some researchers think this could be a surviving prehistoric reptile, maybe a distant cousin of the Triceratops, or even a totally unknown species that's never made it into the fossil record. But with the Congo's brutal terrain and lack of deep scientific exploration, proving it exists is like trying to find a needle in a haystack the size of a country. Now, let us move on to something that LL make your stomach churn. a snake so massive it could swallow a small boat hole. Back in May 1959, a military helicopter was cruising over the Congo rainforest when the crew colonel Remy Van, a pilot, and a photographer spotted something insane. Slithering through the trees below was a serpent that looked like it belonged in a monster movie. They estimated it was at least 50 feet long, with a body as thick as a telephone pole and a head that could rear up 10 feet off the ground. They got close enough to snap a photo before realizing they were way too close for comfort and had to pull back. That picture, it's still one of the most debated pieces of evidence out there, with some saying it's proof that something like a real prehistoric snake that stretched up to 50 feet and weighed over a ton might still be slithering around. The Congo's environment is like a time capsule, with its steamy humidity and thick vegetation mirroring the swamps. Titanoboa called home 60 million years ago. The locals have their own names for this giant snake, and they all describe the same thing. A beast long enough to stretch across a river, capable of gulping down an antelope or even a small canoe in minutes. Researchers who've studied that 1959 photo can't agree on what it shows. Some say it's a hoax or an optical illusion, but others argue it could be an evolutionary offshoot of Titanoboa or a rare mutation of an African python that has never been properly catalogued. The Congo is just too vast and unexplored for us to know for sure. But think about it. In a world we've mapped out with satellites and GPS, could a snake that massive still be hiding out there? It's a reminder that nature has got a way of keeping its biggest secrets under wraps. We're not done yet, because the Congo has got one more creature that'll make you think twice about dipping your toes in the water. It's called Mahamba, and it's basically a crocodile on steroids. According to the tribes along the Congo River, this thing stretches up to 50 feet longer than a city bus with powerful legs that let it launch itself onto land faster than you can run. It's not the kind of creature you bump into often. Mahamba sticks to the deepest, murkiest waters, only popping up when it's hungry or its territory's been invaded. Survivors, and there aren't many, say it can swallow a canoe and its paddle a hole, disappearing back into the river without a trace. The locals describe it as looking like a crocodile but way bigger, with a jaw that could crush anything in its path. Some scientists think Mahamba might be a descendant of Dinosuchus, Cretaceous that was over 40 feet long and weighed as much as a school bus. Its bite force was insane, stronger than any animal alive today, capable of snapping turtle shells and ambushing dinosaurs. The last reported sighting of Mahamba was in 1930, and since then, it's been radio silence. But the tribes don't need photos or videos to believe. One Baka elder told a researcher, "We don't need to see it to know it's there. Sometimes, it's what you don't see that proves it's real." That absence of evidence, to them, it's the loudest proof that something ancient is still lurking beneath the surface, waiting. So, why the Congo? Why does this one place keep spitting out stories of creatures that sound like they belong in a prehistoric museum? It's not just because the forest is massive, though. Trust me, it's huge. The Congo Basin is like a world unto itself, with swamps, rivers, and caves that stretch on for thousands of miles. Most of it completely untouched by modern science. Only about 10% of it has been studied, which leaves a whole lot of room for things we can't explain. The locals, who've lived here for generations, aren't just making stuff up for fun. Their survival depends on knowing this forest inside and out. And when they talk about creatures like Makambembe or Emela, it's with the kind of quiet respect you give to something real, something dangerous. These aren't bedtime stories, they're warnings, passed down like a map of where not to go. What's crazy is how consistent these stories are. For centuries, people from different tribes, missionaries, explorers, even scientists, have described the same things. Massive creatures with features that scream dinosaur or prehistoric. Take Makambembe's pointed to sauropod pictures without ever hearing the word dinosaur, or Emela-Ntouka, which sounds like a triceratops to people who've never seen a fossil. Then there's that 1959 photo of a giant snake, snapped from a helicopter, that's still got experts arguing. These aren't random coincidences. They're clues that maybe, just maybe, the Congo is hiding something science hasn't caught up to yet. The forest's environment doesn't hurt the case. Humid and packed with food, it's like a playground for creatures that could evolve way past what we think is possible. Remember, that snake thrived in a world just like the Congo, so who's to say something similar isn't still out there? But let's get real for a second. Could these creatures actually exist in 2025? Science says dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago. And sure, that's the official story. But the Congo's a place where official doesn't mean much. With 90% of the forest unexplored, we're talking about a region bigger than some countries, full of spots no humans ever set foot in, swamps that swallow boots, caves that go on forever, rivers that hide even with drones and satellites, we're barely scratching the surface. And the locals, they don't need a PhD to know what they've seen. When a Baka elder says, we don't need to see Mahamba to know it's there, that's not superstition, that's experience. The absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. You know, just because we haven't caught one on camera doesn't mean it's not out there, biding its time. On the flip side, it's easy to see why some folks think these stories are just that, stories. The Congo's a tough place to navigate, and fear can make shadows look like monsters. A big python could seem like a titan boa in the right light. A massive crocodile might get exaggerated into Mahamba after a few retellings. And those footprints Roy McCall found could be something else entirely, like a weird erosion pattern or an animal we already know about. Plus, let's be honest, humans love a good tale. It's not hard to imagine these stories growing bigger with every generation, especially in a place as mysterious as the Congo. But even the skeptics have to admit, when so many people from so many walks of life describe the same thing, it's hard to write it off completely. There's a reason these legends haven't died out. So, where does that leave us? The Congo rainforest is like a puzzle with most of the pieces missing. Every story, every footprint, every blurry photo is a clue, but we're nowhere near solving it. Maybe Makalambemba's a surviving sauropod, or maybe it's just a really big hippo with a bad reputation. Maybe GBA Fofi is a spider that pushed the limits of biology, or maybe it's a case of jungle fever messing with people's heads. What we do know is that the Congo's still got secrets, and it's not giving them up easily. Scientists are starting to come back with better tech, but until we can explore every swamp and cave, we're left with more questions than answers. And honestly, that's what makes it so exciting. It's a reminder that our planet's still got some tricks up its sleeve, places where the impossible might just be possible. That's it for our deep dive into the Congo rainforest. Folks, from Mokombem to Mahamba, we've covered a lot of ground, and I hope you're as fascinated by this place as I am. What do you think? Are these creatures real, or are they just legends born from the jungle's mystery? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've got your own stories about weird creatures or unexplained sightings, I want to hear them. Maybe your tale will inspire our next video. If you loved this journey into the unknown, hit that like button and subscribe to keep exploring the world's wildest mysteries with us. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an adventure. Thanks for coming along, and we'll see you next time for another trip into the unknown.